Damn, I'm getting too big for my skull jacket here because all I do in October is sit here and watch 31 movies. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Grudge episode. These are the American Grudges. That's right. We've got 2004's The Grudge. We also have The Grudge 2 and 3, but those will be a little bit later. We're starting with this one. After the success of The Ring, boy, were they like, we need to get some more J-horror shit. And of course, there's nothing you wouldn't want to pick up besides The Grudge. Now, The Grudge, unlike The Ring, it was directed by the original director of The Grudge. Takashi Shimizu is back in America making this. I think it was shot actually in Japan, which is an interesting way. They don't generally do that for the English remake things. They just like set it in Maine or some shit. But this is a movie produced by Sam Raimi, one of our favorites on the show. Gotta have Sam Raimi involved if you're gonna make a scary little movie. There's nothing scarier than seeing Sarah Michelle Gellar act. That's right, we've got Buffy as the lead character playing an exchange student, because how could you have it set in Japan but not have everyone speak English? It's very simple. You just get a bunch of expats together and make them be in the movie. Now, as terrible as Sarah Michelle Gellar is at acting, that's not like, she always feels cartoony, like she's still in Buffy, even though she's not in Buffy in this. She in other movie. Why are you still being Buffy? Luckily, we are blessed with some Bill Pullman. Bill Pullman's real good in this movie. He plays like the college professor character that the wife is obsessed with and makes the husband murder her and her child and her cat. So that's a lot of fun. This is a very similar movie to Ju-on the Grudge and Ju-on the Curse. But, however, this is his third attempt to make this exact same movie, and obviously, this is the best version of it. However I may feel about some of the acting in it, doesn't quite matter, because this is certainly the most coherent version of this story to date. So in this movie, Sarah Michelle Gellar, our protagonist, Karen, gets a job working for the family that currently lives in the house where we know the Ju-on curse is. It's a grudge. We got a grudge, everybody. Woo! And it's almost exactly the same, except for it has Sarah Michelle Gellar instead of the characters from the last one. But in a way, I think this one is a little better because there is, again, so many characters that intertwine, but unlike in the other two movies, they're not just random characters. Every character has a place, and everybody has something to do. So, like, everything's connected instead of it just being random people all the time. Basically, all of the scares are shot for shot because the scares are so good. Like the little kid opening his mouth with the cat sounds. You've got the scary Kayako pulling people out of the security footage. You've got her crawling out of your bed sheets. All of the good scares, and of course, it wouldn't be The Grudge without the crawling down the staircase gag. And that is really scary. And a lot of the times, this movie works well because of the connections between the characters. I actually gave a shit about some of these characters. It's not just random people that are investigating this curse. You've got Karen, her boyfriend, you've got her boss, and you've got the cop. And that's pretty much the main core of characters. Besides the family that dies, that's kind of the main core of characters. And it almost is just those people in the movie, unlike the other one where it would just shift perspective so often. I never knew what was going on. I mean, I knew what was going on, but it's just harder to follow. This actually feels like a movie. And I think I even said in the last Grudge episode that if this was a little bit tighter, it would feel like more of a movie instead of a string of scary sketches. And that's exactly what this is. It's interesting that dumbing it down for an American audience is what did it. Sometimes you just have to simplify your scripts a little bit to make them a little cleaner. And more watchable. While it does play out almost beat for beat like the other ones, it does feel a little silly at times still. It still feels a little silly at times. And I think that's because some of the scares don't necessarily work in a more CGI type manner. Like when the girl loses her jaw and starts walking around as a zombie and there's fake blood squirting out of it, it's like that kind of isn't that scary. But then you see Kyoko, and she's much scarier in CGI than she is was just a person with black face paint on, you know? So there are the pros and cons to this movie. I do think it works. I think it works great. And I actually think this is a very good movie. I think some people may not enjoy this one. I think The Grudge, it's like your mileage may vary depending on how much you give a shit about terrible acting horror movies filled with jump scares, but I do think that this is one of the stronger ones from the 2000s era. Maybe it's certainly not as scary as The Ring, maybe, but it does have a certain charm to it that I like. So this one I'm going to have to give 4 stars, and now we're going to be talking about The Grudge 2. Alright, everybody, The Grudge 2. So this is one that I guess it follows the same formula as the other Grudge movies, but they're like, we gotta get this to America. It's too much to record in Japan, apparently. We gotta get this thing over to America ASAP so we can crank out some more direct-to-video sequels, and that is just what they did. Arguably the scariest part of this is when it first opens, the Columbia Picture lady, you know, the lady holding the torch, like the Statue of Liberty thing in Columbia Pictures, turns into Kyoko, and that's pretty scary. So that's that's probably one of the biggest scares I had in this movie. I was like, watching this, I'm like, oh yeah, Columbia Pictures. And I'm like, ah, ah, got the heebie-jeebies on that one. Again, we've seen like 8 Grudge movies now, and this one falls into the trap of too much shit going on for no apparent reason. It's too much going on for no apparent reason. So this one, it has like, I don't know what it is about these movies set in Japan, but they always like, especially for American audiences, they just go to foreign exchange students. Like there's fucking thousands and thousands of foreign exchange students. Maybe there is that many foreign exchange students. I don't really know. Tokyo probably has a decent amount of foreign exchange students, but it's like that's the character of our movie. That's always the character of our movie. And we've got a few students. They decide to go into the house because it's scary, and what you want to do is go into the house and find scary stuff, you know. Immediately they all get cursed. They all get cursed. 2 white girls, 1 Japanese girl. One of them is so freaked out from this. They trapped her in the closet. She saw the Kyoko in there, and that really did make her so mentally unstable that she had to go back home to Chicago. And that's where that storyline starts, is they bring Kyoko to the motherland of the United States of America in Chicago. This ain't Candyman, though. This is The Grudge 2. And then it starts taking over an apartment complex right there in beautiful Chicago. The other characters get eaten in pretty spectacular, scary fashions. I do think the Japanese girl has like probably one of the better scares in this entire thing. She goes to a love hotel with her boyfriend, and her boyfriend is showering, and she thinks she's in the bed, and then, what's under the covers? Scary bullshit. That's what's under there. That's what's fucking under there. This movie does have actually some pretty good scares. To be honest, it does have some pretty good scares. As a movie, it barely constitutes as that, of course. It's barely a movie. But, you know, I do feel like once you see a lot of Grudge movies, you kind of know what to expect. There's going to be a little boy making meow sounds. There's going to be a Kyoko, scary ghost woman, going to be popping up all over the place. And that's pretty much what it is. And of course, it wouldn't be a Grudge movie if there wasn't a reporter looking into it. So the other storylines, like a reporter and Karen's sister, the Sarah Michelle Gellar character from the first one, her sister's in this. You see Sarah Michelle for like 2 minutes, and then she immediately gets thrown off a building. So it's like, yeah, let's get her the fuck out of here. I'm gonna fuck out of here and put in someone equally as bad at acting in there for that one. That's a lot of fun. I was speaking of scares, and the reporter has a really good scare where he's in a dark room developing some film, and Kyoko crawls out of the water there. That actually is scary, because you've got the red light, you know, the kind of the black light, and then just liquid, like dark liquid turning into a person. Sometimes these movies get some things right, and what they do get right oftentimes is the scares. The plot, I think, due to the nature of them always wanting to make them non-linear, it really does make it for like a messy experience every single time. So once we get to Chicago, it kind of takes place with this family, the little kid Jake, Allison's the sister, I believe. Kind of a lot of shit goes down. Our apartment complex actually is like a good idea for a curse that moves around, because you can hit a lot of people and kind of just like do some pretty good scares within the confines of people's apartments. But mostly this one is just, no one has any solutions. It's just a grudge. It's just the grudge girl running around killing everybody in sight. You got Toshio, the little kid, doing Toshio shit, and he always seems to latch on to the kids. Like in this one, you've got Jake, and he's the last one alive in this movie, and he always kind of like takes the place of the imaginary friend type character, which I think works really good in these movies a lot of the time, but they never do that much with anything. That's the problem with these, is they're only vessels for killing people. They're not really like here to deliver any kind of information or anything. Like the lore is just simply there is a curse, and there's no solutions ever presented how to get rid of the curse other than you're just going to die. And this one makes that supremely obvious that none of these characters matter at all. There's just going to be some cool kills. And for that, I think that's okay. This isn't the best movie I've ever seen, but it's certainly entertaining, genuinely entertaining at quite a lot of times. It isn't good. It isn't good, but you know, what are you going to do? It's a fucking Grudge movie, a deep sequel. I call this one a deep sequel because we're fucking 8 movies in at this point. This is a deep sequel. So I'm going to give this one 2 stars, but not to say I didn't like it. I did enjoy myself watching this, laughing it up. I was laughing it up. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Ridiculous, son. All right, let's move on to The Grudge 3. Just got finished watching this one. Had to talk about it because it's truly, truly ridiculous. This is a ridiculous film. The Grudge 3 takes place in Chicago in the same apartment building as the second one. You start off with Jake, the kid from the second movie. He's violently tossed around in a padded cell, breaks every bone in his body. This news somehow gets to Japan. And one thing I love about these direct-to-video sequel shit is that they always introduce like new characters and new shit that never has appeared in any other one of these movies. Like all of a sudden Kayoko now has a sister, Nayoko or something, or Nako, and she hears about the news of this kid, and somehow she's like, oh, that's probably Kayoko. She probably somehow got to this apartment in Chicago somehow, and I gotta go deal with that. This is the first time in this series that anyone's ever delivered some sort of solution. She's like, I gotta go to America, and I gotta do an exorcism to get my sister out of this curse and stop killing people in Chicago for some reason. No one's ever had a solution before, and this is just a magical mystery character that's just popped up. So that's a lot of fun. But what I like the most about this one is that it's essentially about a landlord who's the landlord of a haunted house, and he's real pissed off that ghosts can't pay rent. That's essentially what this is about, because the main character, Max, is the landlord of this building, and he can't get anybody to stay in it because they just keep dying as soon as they immediately roll up. And he's like, how do I get these fucking ghosts out of here? I gotta get people to pay me rent. I gotta get these fucking ghosts. Ghosts keep killing people. It's terrible for business. It's really bad for business. So Max lives here with his 2 sisters in the building. He's trying to rent shit out. Nako comes over from Japan, and she's like, I need a place to stay. She's like kind of looking at the place, trying to figure out if it really is cursed or whatever. And immediately she's like, yeah, it's cursed. Seems cursed to me. Seems pretty cursed. You also wouldn't have a Grudge movie without some sort of person investigating. So the doctor from the beginning where Jake died, she comes over and investigates it, brutally murdered immediately almost. So you're like, I see they were trying to do the same thing again, but they're like, nah, let's just have that as a vessel to brutally murder people. Because that is what these movies are. They are. And the kills in this are pretty intense, especially for a direct-to-video thing. Like, they look pretty good, a lot of them. I don't think, like, they show Kayoko too much, and it's not really scary. Like, I think I mentioned this in the first couple Ju-on movies is that when it's just like a girl with white face paint all over, it's like not that scary to me. Not that scary to me because it doesn't look like a fucking demon or anything. It just looks like a girl wearing white face paint. But there are some pretty good kills in this one. Maybe not as good as part 2. There's probably some more violence in this one. Like there is a part where there's a lot of stabbing through like skulls and throats and stuff, but never as good scares to me. It's more gory. This is more on the gore porn type thing. This one was when was this one? Like 2009 or something. So that's kind of like the gore porn. 2009 by Toby Wilkins. And one thing that's a little bit different about this one is they don't do the non-linear thing. So I wonder if it was just like too much for like a shitty direct-to-video movie for them to do the non-linear thing. They're like, let's just make this pretty straightforward. Pretty, we're just going to add a lot of shit. We're going to add an exorcism that they've never tried in any other movie, but maybe it'll work in this one. It doesn't really work that well. Does not really work that well. So eventually, Max, the landlord, gets possessed by Kayako and is like just being a scumbag and stuff, and they're like, oh shit, he's a scumbag, I guess we better do an exorcism, because the Japanese woman is like, we're just going to do a simple ceremony, ceremony to get this ghost out of here. And it's like, no one's ever suggested this before in the history of this franchise. No one has like, let's try and get rid of the curse. This is the one time that they do it. And she's like, it's just a very, very simple ceremony. And then they actually get to the exorcism. And you're like, that doesn't seem very simple. That seems kind of old worldy. That seems like there's a lot of steps to getting that right. That seems like there's a lot of dark, deep magic going on there. And now this one, like I've said, I feel like I've said it many times, is they just keep adding shit to this. Like, I think in previous ones, it's always been Kayako, right? But like maybe previously there's been a couple people that gets possessed also, but they never become their own demon, I don't think. Whereas this one, the sister also gets possessed after Kayako possessing Max kills her. So it's like there's so many layers to it that it's like, what are you even trying to get at here? Why does there have to be more than one curse? Like, why does there have to be a new curse? You can just keep this curse going. People can just fail. That's what I like. That's what I like about horror movies, is sometimes people fail. Sometimes people fail in these things. And they do certainly fail in this one, because once they get the exorcism done, it turns out the little girl has Kayako inside of her, and the sister is also now haunting the building. So they haven't made a Grudge 4. I don't know what the new Grudge is about. I don't think it's about this, but you never know. This one, I'm also going to have to give it 2 stars. It's funnier in concept, this one. I think being the landlord of a haunted house, there's something good to that. There could be a good movie based on a guy being the landlord of a haunted house and trying to get those ghosts out. But this unfortunately isn't really that. It's fine. It's another Grudge movie. Certainly, like, I do think the trilogy is worth a watch, regardless if I've lowly rated a couple of them. I do think, like, it is a pretty fun mid-2000s horror franchise, and actually kind of successful in being a little bit scary. Not the best movies of all time. Like, I much prefer the Ring movies, but these are completely fine. They're completely fine. They do their job, and I appreciate that a little bit, at least. So that's it for today. If you have anything about the American Grudge movies, leave that in the comments. I'll be sure to read it in an upcoming episode. And I appreciate your time here, guys. And don't forget to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Movie Epidemic. Thank you.
Why don't you play us something, baby? Why don't you play us something, baby?
Start? I don't feel so good.